Hi there, everyone. This is Sharon, the founder of Self Care for Black Men and the creator of Voices for Black Men as well. And with Voices for Black Men is all voices, meaning different people with different platforms, with different messages who are out there talking about Black men and who are advocating for Black men as well. And so for Voices for Men, we're part of Self Care for Black Men. And one of the premises of Self Care for Black Men is sitting in silence. And so one of the things that I like to do in the beginning of these discussions is to always sit in silence. And even before we do that, today our special guest is Benn-Cooper. He's a father, friend, and a writer. I've already told Jay that he is definitely a writer. And our topic for this evening is what men go through: guilt, mourning, regret, apologetic, and forgiveness. And so Jay's going to be talking about his experience with all of these things. But as I always say, in order to be able to receive things, we need to be able to sit in silence so we can hear what we need to hear, so you can see what you need to see. And sitting in silence is really, really important. And so wherever you are, or you could be standing, as long as you're not driving. If you're driving, just listen. So sit in a comfortable position, whether that is in a chair, on the floor, or you could be lying down on the bed. But if you're driving, you're just listening. Um, Sit very comfortably, and then also have your head towards the ground, towards Mother Earth, and also plant your feet firmly into the ground if you're sitting in a chair. Otherwise, just be as comfortable. And let's just take a few deep breaths. Inhale through your nose and exhale through your nose. Another inhale through your nose and exhale through your nose. One last time. Inhale and exhale. And now let's just sit in silence just for one moment so you can hear what needs to be heard, see what needs to be seen, feel what needs to be felt. And so now bring your surface back to, bring your attention back to the surface. And gently open your eyes, and here we are. And so thank you for that. And now Ben will be joining us. Well, howdy, everyone. Again, and this is I always call you Ben. This is J. Benn-Cooper, and as I said, he's a father, he's a friend, and he is a writer. This is in his future. He knows he is. He just hadn't quite claimed it yet. He is, but he has this. He's writing a book. I'm going to put it like that. He's writing a book. He just don't know it yet.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
But welcome, Jay.
Thank you. How are you?
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Can you hear me okay?
I can. On my
Okay.
end, there's a little static, and
Right.
so I don't know is the static coming from on my end, or is it deriving from your end, if you know what I mean.
Okay, let me try something real quick and get rid of the interference, if there's interference at all on this end. Okay. Is that better?
Oh yeah, that's a whole lot better.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't hear no more static. That's a whole lot better.
Well, great. Great.
So again, thank you for joining Voices for Black Men. I know that actually it's been maybe 2 years because you were on kind of like my other platform, Fatherhood, Manhood, Fatherhood, Myhood, and
Right.
you were I want to say my very first guest. If you weren't the
Hmm.
first guest, you were the second guest. And when I think about it, I need to repost that because there was a lot of good stuff that was in that one too. But just
Hmm.
meaning that I just wanted to bring that up. One, I have grown as a host.
Right. Right. Right.
At that time, I didn't want to be seen.
Hmm.
But I have grown, and so I appreciate you, being a part of self care for Black men early in its stages, and to want to come back. So let's just start where you are right now.
Oh, well, now I just purchased a home in September, and I'm living solo in my home in Perry Hall, Maryland. It's something I've always wanted to do. I did cohabitate some years back, but it's really not the same as having your own. You know, you like to
Hmm.
share it with someone at some point and everything, but it's really a God gift to have your own and be able to do things on your own. And I'm very appreciative of that. And that's pretty much what I've been doing. Other than working, I'm still working. I retired in 2016, but I'm still working. I now work for the VA, and I enjoy it because it's kind of like giving back to something I honestly believe in, and I'm a part of also, both in the employment realm and also as a veteran. So I'm really enjoying myself now. Yeah, man.
Oh, good, good. So you be able to enjoy it, like you said, for both sides because you could definitely advocate for them because
Of course.
even though you may not have the exact same experience as everyone, but you have the experience and what their needs are and how, and,
Right.
and some of the things that they may not even know. Because a
Absolutely.
lot of times I notice that people kind of learn along the way.
Hmm. Hmm. Through trial and error in some cases.
Say that again.
I said through trial and error in some cases, but we get there.
Hmm. Oh yeah. 'Cause, even though like my stepfather, he's a veteran and he's been able to advocate for himself really, really well. But there have been
Hmm.
some instances you're like, oh wow, what is all this? You know what I mean? And
Right.
it's good to have other people. It's good to be able to do it yourself, but it's also good to
Mhm.
be able to have other people along the line just to help. Have more. The more voices you have, I'll put it like that, the better.
Absolutely. And it's a community that's growing every single day, and a community that really needs the focus necessary to better, like you said before, advocate for the veteran who's just recently getting out of the military, or that veteran that might have been in the street for some time. But it's great to be in a position to do all those things.
Yeah, definitely, most definitely. And
Right.
so, our main topic today is like what men go through. And so it seems like, um, I say this in general, men go through a lot. And then as women, we don't always realize what men go through. And then at the same time, with the things that men go through, some men are willing to share when that time comes, and then some men don't want to say anything. So first of all,
Right.
I want to, commend you for wanting to even talk about your experience So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, where should I start? I think as a black man, um, in the society that we live in, we are faced with challenges every single day. And I can honestly tell you that a lot of those challenges that we face are basically are somewhat self-inflicted. And what I mean by that is, not only do we have to deal with um, societal issues that were created some time ago, and it's just a matter of navigating yourself in the right direction, but remembering who you are and where you came from, to better, I guess, ground yourself. Um, that's the easy part, mainly because everybody has their sights on this particular goal, and the goal is equality for all people. And as a black man, once again in this society, it's sometimes difficult, but there's always a way to you know get to that light at the end of the tunnel. There is. Now, there's a flip side of that also, as it becomes it's really become very apparent to me years ago. There's a flip side of that too. We as black men are uh, held to a standard. Um, and what I mean by that is we're responsible for taking care of our kids, and we're also responsible for taking care of our women. And some of us from time to time, and I'm not talking about the kid aspect, I'm talking about the companion aspect, or the lover or wife or girlfriend, that aspect. Sometimes we don't do the necessary things we need to do in order to take care of them, which is a bit of a problem. And I'm here to tell you, I wish I'd done this a number of years ago, to be honest with you. But I'm here to tell you that the one thing that we should never do ever is take our lady or our women for granted. We can never do that. But, you know, it's kind of innate within them. And I'm not speaking for them. I'm just saying based on my experiences. It's kind of innate for them to be supportive, loving, and giving. But we have a tendency to
Hmm.
take that for granted. You know, I'm not proud to sit here and say that I've been one of those individuals, but I'm proud to sit here and say that I survived it. And what I mean by that is, after I lost this last time, I had to bounce back quite a bit. And trust me, it took a lot out of me because yeah, it took a lot out of me. This last relationship, because this woman was everything to us. Everything a man could ever want in a woman, that's exactly what she was. And me being the guy that I used to be, because I'm speaking past tense now, but me being the guy that I used to be, I took every bit of that for granted. I did. And that is the unfortunate part. And again, we as black men, and I'll focus on that because it's so important that we take care of our women. We as black men, have a responsibility to take care of our women and not take them for granted. And a lot of times, what I've noticed, there's a lot of residue, you know, in relationships. You meet
Yeah.
someone new and they're kind of, you a suspect, even though you're not the person that they've dealt with in the past, but you're a suspect based on their experiences in the past. And the
Mm.
unfortunate part about it, it takes them a while to get over that, no matter how much reassurance you possibly give them. That's why, again, I'll revert back to saying that it is our responsibility to take care of our women and make sure they believe in what we are truly um, put here for and what we truly stand for. You know what I mean? As being that strong individual,
Mhm.
the breadwinner, the support, um, all those things and wrapped up into one that we're supposed to be. And like I said before, I should have done this years ago. I should have. Um, because I think it's very important for myself as well as some of the other brothers out there. That's black and white, doesn't matter. But as far as in myself and other brothers out there who are struggling with doing the right things by our people or by our women, sometimes the one thing that I've also learned um, through my trials is the one thing that we need to fall back on. We got to pray our way through things. We have to, because if we don't, there's no coming out. To be honest with you, there's no coming out. And I'm living, breathing truth, that all of that works as long as you are on the right path of, yeah, I can say righteousness, unless you're on the right path to doing um, good by the people that have supported you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And let me ask you this, because you said that you should have done it a long time ago. Did you know it a long time ago? But let's just answer that first. Did you know it a long time ago?
I think you know what. Again, it's good to be honest with oneself first, as well as with the audience out here. But I think we know these things. It's inside of us. We know
Okay.
these things. And what I mean by that is it's so therapeutic to talk things through and to be able to air things out. And I
Hmm.
think that had I been given the opportunity to kind of air it and see it, because it's one thing to just air it and not see it, but to be able to air it and see it, um, it would have changed the course of a lot of things that happened.
Hmm.
It would have. Our first conversation that we had a few years back, that was therapeutic in itself because it was a matter of a form of release, is what it was. And I think we need that sometimes. Otherwise, we keep it all bottled up, and or get to a certain point that we're too proud to discuss things. But you can
Hmm.
never be too proud to discuss anything when it comes to your being, your self being, or your sanity. You can never
Hmm.
be too proud to talk about things like that, because whether or not it's for you, it could be for somebody else, and
Yeah.
that is why I write the way I write.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because
Uh-huh.
your writing is oh, so beautiful. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And so yeah, definitely. Yeah. And one of the reasons I was asking you, did you know? Because sometimes for all of us at different stages in our lives and whatever it is that we're going through, right at that given time, sometimes we just don't know. And then sometimes there's those things where we have had, I guess you say, a push or something may come to mind, but then we don't follow up.
Hmm.
You know how the saying goes that we will continue to experience the same thing with different people until we learn whatever lesson it is that we need to learn. And then it becomes more of the light bulb, like, oh, yeah, I remember that back then, you know. And so for me, I think it can go either way. I think it's just, it's individual basis where some people, they knew and they just ignored it. They didn't weren't ready to deal with it, weren't ready to work with
Right.
it. And then there are some who really just didn't, because the conversations weren't out there. They didn't know, didn't think that it applied to them or whatever it may be, you
Hmm.
know.
And
Yeah.
you know what? You're absolutely right. And see, I call those things that you just mentioned. I call them choke points. Okay. And
Okay.
it's kind of like you can flow in the direction of wrong, and there's always a sign or some type of symbol there to let you know that maybe you need to stop. Okay.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
call those things. It could be a matter of you going in the direction of wrong, and you have a flat tire, or you're going in the you're
Yeah.
going in the direction of wrong, and you
Hmm.
try and make a call, and no one's answering on the other end, but you continue going. Okay. Just small things
Hmm.
and I call them wake up calls. Also, they're choke points and wake up
Hmm.
calls. And the one thing that
Yeah,
we
yeah.
need to right, the one thing that we need to do is we need to adhere to those things because they mean something. We treat
They
them
do.
like they're occurrences, things that happen every once in a while. Those are not occurrences; those are signs.
Yeah.
Especially if you're going in the wrong direction.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I can relate to exactly what you just said. But again, I call those things choke points. I do.
Yeah, yeah. And those are, very good things. And the reason I wanted to point it out is because, whoever's listening, or they're listening live on the replay, in that they may see themselves. They may see those, you said, what they're called again? What you call them?
Choke points.
Choke points, yeah, those
Mhm.
choke points. Because in one sense, they are choking you. You know what I mean? It's like, hey,
Right.
do something
Right.
about them. And so sometimes some people may not recognize that's what they're, what's happening to them, and they
Right.
just, as you say, go in the opposite direction. And I guess you say part of it is your intuition because it knows,
Right.
but we don't. Part of it too, as a society as a whole, there's always been a group of people who do follow that, but as a
Right.
whole, we haven't been taught to really say these are signals and these are the things, that we need to follow up, and how do they
Right.
apply to me on this basis, and what can I learn from that. But yeah, I appreciate your openness, and especially in talking about, how black men, should treat black women, not to say just anyone, whoever they
Right.
love, but since this is, self care for black men, that's who we're, talking about as well. And you're right too, because as women, we go into relationships, whether it's friendships or relationships, friendships that could lead to something or may be,
Right.
and not all. I guess you could say no one never knows, even both parties involved, but especially I would say if one person know where they are, meaning that yeah, I'm here, but I'm not here. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And
Right.
it's not fair for the other person to put their full self in it if one person knows that they're not 100% in it. So
Right.
yeah, I mean, and even as women need to do better too, because there are some women who have reputations out there that can be even worse as some men. And that's my premise of all of us on an individual basis to do our own work. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? Because the other thing is you could be going through something, whatever it is that you're experiencing. I could be taking it so personal and say, oh, well, you're never there for me. But it's kind of like I still need to work on what comes up with me. Part of it could be because I'm one to say, yeah, it still could be true, but if it's
Hmm.
impacting me really hard, that's my stuff.
Right.
That's my stuff more so than what actually happened. I always say outside of abuse and assault. So men and women, we all need to do that, reflective type of work and look within ourselves or wherever there
Hmm.
are wounds and deep hurt so that they won't continue to be carried on in relationships. And we really, you think you're fighting about something, but it's really surface level because it's what triggers something. Whatever triggers you, again, I would say outside of abuse and assault, it's stuff that's inside of it, and we probably don't even know that it's there.
Hmm.
And this is why we need to do our own, our shadow work and stuff like
Right. And as far as relationships are concerned, also that friction that happens within relationships comes from someplace. They do. And
that. Hmm.
again, it's a matter of realization too. It's a matter of being now on the outside of a relationship, looking at the relationship I was in and seeing all the potholes and the potholes and obstacles that were created because of my doing. Um,
Hmm.
and I don't want to keep on hopping on my wrong because, of course, we're discussing it, but it's also therapeutic too. I don't want to keep on hopping on it, but when I'm talking about a lot of the friction that occurred in the relationships had everything to do with me. Because
Hmm.
it's one thing being in a relationship, a committed relationship with someone that you're committed to. There's no concern or worry about what happens outside of that circle. There isn't.
Hmm.
Because within that circle, you have two people, and it's all about the two people who are in that circle. Now, when you start
Hmm.
bringing in other trash or other things within that circle, you start to pollute the area also.
Hmm.
When we're doing our thing, we don't think about those things. We don't think about, okay, this is the reason why you guys argued this morning. The reason why we argued this morning because I was trying to get to my cell phone. Or the reason
Hmm.
why we argued yesterday is because I didn't make it at 7 o'clock like I said I was going to make it. I didn't make it till 8:30. So when you show up like that and you come into a situation, the entire evening or the entire situation is already tainted. So
Yeah.
we don't think about those things. We don't think about improving our posture within a relationship by doing the right thing. We just do what we think we can get away with. And that
Mm.
is the unfortunate part about it. But the beauty of it all, like I said before, and I keep on reverting back and saying that seeing things now, um, it's kind of like it's like an aha moment, okay?
Mm.
Because even in say in relationship, it's kind of like it's a trial and error, but it's also um, a way to get yourself together and a way to get right also, because you try your
Mhm.
best with through prayer. Now you through prayer, you try to be as honest with yourself and the person as you can possibly be, and that's the only thing that the individual is really asking. And like you
Yeah.
said before, if you don't want to be in a relationship, a committed relationship, be honest with the person that you're with. You have to be, and that foundation's
Thousand
got
is
to be
true.
built from the beginning. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
No, yeah, but be honest
You
with
go
that
ahead.
person throughout the relationship, because that foundation of trust has to be built from the ground up, and it all starts with the initial hello. And if you feel like you can't be honest with that person, you know, at the initial hello, or be honest with that person after the first or second date, then maybe you don't ought to be there. You know what I mean? Because you don't
Mm.
engage in a relationship just to be dishonest. You don't. That's like a waste of time that you can never get back. And at this age, I'm 53 years old, and I don't consider myself old. I don't. I think I still got another 50 years to go, but I'm 53 years old, and I still have a life to live that I haven't lived the right way in my past. I still got that life to live, and I look forward to it. But the things that I am most proud about is the fact that I survived all of that stuff I did, and my head is right. You know, my eyes on a prize, and that prize is someday being able to settle down with what I consider the right person, not the night person, but the right person, and that makes a total
Oh
difference.
wow.
It does. Yeah, it does.
Mm. Yeah, I never heard it said it quite like that before.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Well, it is what it is. Right.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Nothing wrong with it
Right.
at all. Nothing wrong with it at all. Yeah, I
Right.
definitely appreciate your openness, because this is it's not just a conversation for men, but it's also a conversation for women too, so that we can, because we have a choice as well.
Hmm.
Meaning that if things are not going the way that we anticipate, expect, and at least just in being treated, with honor, you know what I mean? Because using the things that you talked about, if we're arguing about time and the phone, if that seems to be the theme of our arguments a lot, meaning that it seems like your attention is somewhere else, then, as women, we need to step up to the plate. It's like, I don't know about all of this. You know what I'm saying? So again, it kind of goes back to us doing our own work and learning how to let go, instead of like whatever it is that make women say, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Because it's kind of like you're not honoring my time, you're not honoring my presence. If we're talking about
Right.
you're not being somewhere, I don't want. I mean, even though part of it is respect,
Hmm.
but it's kind of like you're not honoring me as your partner. So we as women have to learn to let go much sooner than
Right.
later. You
Right.
know?
Right. Before you get caught up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, in those trials, or should I say, in the early developments of relationships, the focal point that we all should have, that's both men and women, that time is very important. Okay, it is.
Mhm.
And like you said before, if that person is not honoring your time, you might want to relook the relationship. You need to.
Mhm.
I am. I believe in time. I mean, I'm a time person. I believe in time, and I'm just using myself as an example. I'm not saying that's who I am now. That's not who I am now. But I honor time and I
Mhm.
respect time because I've had 20 plus years of being on time. You know, and if you're involved with someone or in a relationship, and that person is always late, then obviously they don't value your time. If that person is always on his or her cell phone, obviously that person don't value your presence.
Mhm.
If that person's always got some place to be instead of with you, then they don't respect you at all.
Mhm.
Mm-mm. Especially if I am in a committed relationship with you.
Mhm.
Even though the world still revolves with a lot of other pieces, if I say that I am with you, then I am with you. And all that other stuff
Mhm.
is fine. All that other stuff is understandable also. But at the end of the day, if my time and my place and my presence should be with you, then my mind should be with you also. And if my
Mhm.
mind is absent while I'm in front of you, then yeah, you might want to relook the relationship.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah. Wow. And I guess I'm just
Now,
saying this to just, and I guess it kind of makes me go back in memory lane. It's like, well, there's certain relationships that I should have let go early on. I mean, even though it
right.
can be something as simple as, I'm just using this as an example, and not that it happened. You can ask somebody to change the light bulb and they go off, and like,
Hmm.
even though we know that asking to change the light bulb and someone going off has nothing to do with me, but at the same time, it does lay the groundwork of how someone responds when they're frustrated, how someone responds when they're agitated, how someone responds when they're angry. It's okay
Right.
to be angry. It's okay to get frustrated. It's okay, but to quote unquote go off on someone that didn't initiate,
Right.
and agitating you, then whether male or female, we need to
Hmm.
look at that and not allow things, to go further. Now, yeah, somebody can have a bad day, this, that, and the other. But we really need to be able to look at that. It may depend on what caused the bad day. You know what I mean? But in general, we really do need to look at it. But a lot of
Hmm.
times, we overlook it,
Right.
but when we look back, it's all those different things that adds up, you know.
Right. Right.
And so,
Yeah. Yeah. But again,
yeah.
like I said, in committed relationships, you're working towards something.
Mhm.
And, somebody taught me this a long time ago. You spend all this time together, say 4 or 5 years together, there's an end state associated with that. And with that and everything that goes, I don't know. It's kind of like a recipe for success when it comes to relationships. There's all these additives that make the relationship what it is. Okay. And at the end of the relationship is the end state, not the end of the relationship, but at the end of that makeup, you have the end state. And the end state is hopefully marriage, right?
Mhm.
All that time invested, all those things added, that both of you added to the relationship. At the end of that relationship, there's always marriage. That's the end state. And that's what one looks forward to. Because no one wants to have their time wasted. No one wants to. And if we are involved in a relationship, and I am, and this is why we got to be cognizant of everything that happens. But if we're involved in a relationship and I am um, suspect, whenever you talk to me about what happens next, and I am suspect, if I am not really in tune to what you're telling me, if I'm always questioning the situation, then maybe you might want to take a look at that too. You might want to. Spending 4 years or 5 years of one's life together is a testament to something bigger. It is. And,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, because in this day and time, it's really hard to find good people. It is. Um, it is. And I've been fortunate enough to be honestly tell you that I can count on one hand the number of knuckleheads that I've come across in my life. But I can use both hands and both feet, and then some, to tell you. I can use both hands and both feet to tell you how much God has blessed me over the years with good people, good women. And there's been a lot of them, trust me. But I had to get to a certain point in my life that I had to realize what the worth of the woman, the black woman, that I have had the privilege to, spend, you know, so many years with. And I'm just not just talking about one. I mean, there's been a lot of good women in my life. The unfortunate part about it, I didn't adhere to the warning signs, my own warning signs. I didn't do that, you know. And I guess another part of this conversation that we're supposed to have this evening is a matter of um, being in those relationships and then getting to a certain point where you've lost by your own doing, and then it's a matter of the releasing oneself of the guilt that comes along with it. And I know that you've noticed it, like everybody has. I mean, we've even gotten messages, and all I do is kind of I release. That's why I write. Okay. And a lot of times I get, responses like, "Is everything okay?" And my response to that individual is, "It's just a matter of me imparting parts of myself to the person that might need it." That's what I do. But then that's therapeutic also, because it's a matter of me trying to get myself right by releasing the things that are on my heart or on my head. Because trust me, if we allow those things to stay trapped inside of you, it gets to a certain point, and you never want to get to that certain point. You don't. That's why you need that release valve. But it's taken me a long time to get to a certain point where I could forgive myself. And my biggest problem in the past had been thinking back on the choke points and thinking back on the hearts that I've broken, and the money that I've wasted and the time that I've wasted, not necessarily my time, but their time, the time that they wasted with me while I was going through myself. And it took me a long time. And again, that has a lot to do with prayer and actually spending that alone time with yourself in order to take that deep dive inside of you to find out exactly what was wrong with you at the time you were doing those things. And once you get to a certain point where you got it, you got it. Because all things come from someplace. They do. I had a conversation with a friend of mine. You're familiar with Tony Hopkins, right? Anthony Hopkins? Okay. Tony and I were talking one day, and we were talking about relationships. And Tony said, and I mean, this is so profound. Tony said, we never really had a real male role model around that teaches how to be men. We pretty much had to learn by cherry picking certain aspects of our young lives. And what we thought we were doing, what we thought was growing as a man was actually just maneuvering through life as best we knew how to. But Tony actually had a profound moment when Tony mentioned that to me. We were never really coached on how to be men and how to take care of our women. We just did what we thought we should do. And the unfortunate part about it, a lot of us get that confused with taking care of women, confused with bravado. Men are supposed to act a certain way. The man is supposed to be, that guy that stands out. That man is supposed to be that type of guy. The thing about it is that man is only supposed to be that type of guy to one woman. That's it. Not all women. Not all. But just the one woman. But I don't know. It's been a heck of a journey. I can tell you that much. It has.
Yeah. And then also, too, that goes along with that for, women who grew up in single parent house, we didn't see, men. You know what I'm saying? So even when it came to relationship, it, whatever that we saw in our environment per se, not always in our home, and then,
Mm-hmm.
whatever TV, and then I guess you could say what we imagine what it should look like, however we
Right.
came to that conclusion. So you have one where men were coached, but then two where in single parent households, and even in sometimes some two parent households, the father was there, but he wasn't there.
Right.
Because part of being a provider was working, and then for some men, whatever it is that they were doing too, they were doing something out of the street, kind of doing the things that you were describing where, the
Right.
person they had a committed relationship committed to that person. So add that to, women not
Mm-hmm.
having a role model, of what relationships should look like, and then what do we end up with? You know what I'm
Right.
saying? It's like both
Right.
individuals are, some of it sometimes you get this fantasy piece of what relationships are, and then some of it you get, whatever it is that may be real, that we develop in our own mind that can be very appropriate as well,
Mm-hmm.
in a very good sense. It's not just a wishy type of thing. And then whatever
Right.
we got from even the social programming, some are good, some are not. So there have been some when I've been in relationships, I'm like, where did this come from? I don't even think that way. But that shows you how ingrained some of these social programming can be, and you don't even know you've been hit. You're like, men's supposed to do this, and women's supposed to do that, and I'm not even that kind of
Right.
person. But you get in a relationship, and then you start washing the dishes and making sure that the
Right.
food
Right.
is
Right.
cooked and everything. Like, wait a
Right.
minute now. But that's just how ingrained it is. But I just wanted to make that point too, is that, for some females, because I didn't realize it within myself until after a breakup when I went deep within myself and I realized like, oh, okay, I do have what they call fatherless daughter syndrome. I do have some traits of those. So like, oh, okay, and but like I said, even sometimes in a two parent home, if the father isn't emotionally there or even physically there, but definitely emotionally there, you can still have the same result, because the
Right.
father just isn't present.
Right. But again, that has a lot to do with, and like Tony said, um, we've never really taught. But
Mm-hmm.
we spend enough time on this earth to understand exactly what right looks like when it comes to a father being a part of the family or being a male within a family. We understand what right looks like.
Mm-hmm.
So, being this age right here, at being age 53, if I was ever to fall back on what I thought as opposed to what I know, I would be wrong for doing that. I would be. Because I've spent enough time on this earth to know the difference between right and wrong when it comes to that family, as far as taking care of that family also.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But it's just a matter of setting
Yeah.
the groundwork and preparing the younger generations for the things that are most important to family. It's a matter of preparing them.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, like you said, to prepare others. And that's why it's so important. I feel that it's important for men, especially black men, to share your experiences. Not just in
Hmm.
relationships, but just in so many different things. I would say in any place where there are lessons learned,
Right.
lessons or revelations and things like that, because one thing that I've seen by having this platform, and there's one guy, he discovered, like this issue with depression, but he didn't know that he was experiencing it because, like in the black community, deal with, you know, trauma anyway, race-based trauma, and so if you grow up in a certain type of neighborhood and you see certain type of things, and especially if someone is behaving in a certain type of way, you just like, you know, it's normal. It's like, yeah, somebody gets shot, you just go about your business. Like, no,
Right.
that's trauma. You know what I'm saying? And not to be able to, it's not just to be able to process it mentally, but with any trauma, it's all going to impact your body. So to be able to, process it emotionally and through your body as well,
Right.
And so, so meaning by watching other people and listening to other people, you're able to, discover things about yourself.
Hmm. And that's why community is so important. Um,
Hmm.
because, like you said, that trauma within our community as kids. I lived in the projects for a long bit of time until my mom moved us all out, and that trauma of being in that community is still in the back of my mind. Some might consider that to be PTSD. It wasn't that bad of a trauma, but it's still a trauma living in those conditions. You know,
Oh yeah,
it is.
most definitely.
Um, because we saw a lot of things that your ordinary kid that lives in the suburbs would never see, you know?
Hmm.
Uh, um, and it is in so many ways what defines us either positively or negatively throughout our life. We just got to be able to trust in those individuals who comes into our life that only want to help us through it. You have to be.
Hmm.
And that's what got me through those issues a long time ago. I can remember, growing up in Broad River Terrace, um, and there was this guy named Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown was the apartment manager. And what Mr. Brown would always do, and I don't know why Mr. Brown chose me, but Mr. Brown would always take me with him places. I would always have dinner with his family. My father wasn't there. My mom did the best she could. My mom was an alcoholic for a number of years. But Mr. Brown extracted me from that situation, and he showed me things that I'd never seen in my entire life, nor did I have part of my life. He showed me those things. So when I
Hmm.
start thinking about family, I think about Mr. Brown. Once again, that's that person that was placed in my life for a particular reason. You know what I mean?
True.
And that's a matter of that's a matter of positive reflection. If we need to pull from something and positive reflect on things, and not necessarily always have to be negative based on where you come from. God has placed these
Hmm.
people in your life for a particular reason, even if it's for a short period of time. They're there for a reason,
Yeah.
and that's what we
Oh
pull
yeah.
from, the positivity.
Yeah, yeah. And that's throughout life, of people who come into your life at different points. And even to be honest, too, even when it comes to relationships, because a lot of times people think when you enter, friendship or especially intimate relationship, like you were
Hmm.
saying, the goal sometimes is for marriage, but then maybe the person, maybe I kind of call it, we all have different assignments. And so
Hmm.
maybe that assignment wasn't for that person to be your internal mate, not in that way,
Right,
maybe more of a spiritual mate, so that,
right,
because I say every experience that we have, it is for something, whether
right,
it's
right,
for us or it's for someone else. And so even when it comes to, how, again, kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, that we will experience the same thing with different people until the lesson that we learn. So there are mirrors of parts of us that we need to face,
right.
And so maybe people who come in our lives, we're thinking, oh, they're the one, but maybe they're the one in a different way, you
Hmm.
know.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So that we can, yeah, so that we can open those doors within our own heart and our own
Hmm.
mind. Because to truly to be able to love others, we have to truly to be able to love ourselves,
Right.
But if
Right.
we're doing, certain things, we're not quite loving ourselves just yet, you know. We
You're
may,
right.
I guess you could satisfy certain desires,
Hmm. But that
but
gets
we
over
may
after a
not
period of time.
always, yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So, it's and then it depends on how, I guess you say, those individuals kind of view it too. Because I can think about one relationship in which the end really did hurt. But I can definitely say everything that came thereafter, and
Hmm.
especially, by me going deeper within myself, I wouldn't change a thing. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? Yeah, I hated that I had to go through it. Yes, it was hurtful, but I wouldn't change a thing though, because I wouldn't be where I am today, to be honest. I
Right.
may be in a different place, but I wouldn't be doing all these wonderful things, even though I always say I was already doing wonderful things, but really being where I am right now, you
Hmm.
know?
Hmm. Right.
So, so we have to, turn things around, It's like,
Right.
hey, well, maybe that wasn't, their assignment, you know?
Yeah, and that's an elegant way of putting it. I posted something the other day,
Mhm.
and I was talking about seasons, okay, as it related to people that come and go in your life. And I said, and I guess it was a matter of selfish thinking because
Mhm.
my philosophy on seasons, or seasons are reoccurring. A lot of folks like to
Mhm.
put themselves as seasons, to place the season title on themselves, but seasons are reoccurring. So you're not really a
Mhm.
season. Um, you're pretty much a drive-by. You know what I mean? Because
Mhm.
you come
Mhm.
and go. You make your pit stop and then you're gone. Seasons, in my opinion, if I meet you in say March and we last an entire year, okay, that's not a season to me.
Mhm.
To me, that entire year was profound because it could affect you negatively or positively.
Mhm.
There's some growth within that 1 year's time. So that's not a season. That's something that you can take with you. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? That you might be able to use.
Mhm.
Regardless how negative, again, regardless how negative or positive relationship was, that is something that you can take with it. But it's up to you to dissect or pull what you need to pull from it in order to move forward. It is. Um, so that whole season thing is it's meaningful and it all makes sense. But I think some people's rest reference to seasons are just drive-bys. Because if you're
Mhm.
with me for a year, I want to be able to remember something that I got from you. And it ain't
Mhm.
physical, but I want to be able to remember something I got from you. And that's something that
Yeah.
stays with you. And if it
Yeah.
needs to, when you get to ever get to a certain point in your life where that thing resonates, it resonates for a particular reason because that person was impactful in your life. That is seasonal. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to add that part. Can't hear you. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Can you hear me? You can hear me? I can't hear you. Mm-mm. Can't hear you. Mm. Well, I don't know. I still can't hear you. Wait a minute. Hello? I guess it's time to close out. Yeah, I can't hear you. I still can't hear you. Can't hear you. All right. We can close out.